It's lesson 332. And actually, how about that, Ken? I made it. If you need a copy of the lesson, by the way, we have copies of the lesson. Do you need a copy? Do you need one? Because I know Marlene can get up and get one. She's so quick and gets up all the time. Anyway, fear binds the world, forgiveness sets it free. And to me, this is a beautiful example of why we need to forgive. Because when you are, just think of it, when you are fearful, when you are judging another person, does anybody need a copy of the lesson? Okay, just Paul. When you are judging another person, when you are angry with another person, when you are upset by world situations, how do you feel? Do you feel free? Do you feel open? Do you feel abundant? Or do you feel kind of limited? Do you feel pulled in? I think we can all just from this very first line feel that when we are afraid, we're kind of constricted. We're protective. And it says, when we feel like that, that's the grip of fear. Okay, that's the grip of fear. And how do answers come to us? Even if someone is presenting you with another way, it doesn't seem to come to you because you're resistant to it. You're afraid. You've seen people that are afraid. People that are afraid are resistant to change. They don't want to hear anything else. We start to see right now, we have said that we would bring in some of the Syrian refugees. And right now, we have a big disagreement within our states, where I think it's almost like 30. Some of them, over 30 of them, say we don't. Of our states, say we don't want any Syrian refugees, and there's only about a handful, the rest of them, that say we will take them. One of the governors from the state of Washington, I thought it was kind of interesting. He says, I lived on Bainbridge Island and up in Washington. He said during World War II. And he says, I remember, come on in, Karen. I remember, he said, the internment of the Japanese. He said, while their sons were off fighting in the war, the families were being in internment camps. They were being interned. And he says, this is not something we really want to repeat. We're not like that. And we don't want to change our ways because we're afraid. And again, this is something we have to think about. After 9/11, there was a great desire for all of us to turn within, to kind of be afraid. I remember looking up in the skies and seeing no airplanes, which was strange. I remember taking our son to the park, and he was only like 3 at that time. And I'd push him on the swing, and there was always a lot. It was kind of a flight path from John Wayne Airport, Orange County Airport. And I'd always see planes, and we'd always look at the planes coming over the hills. And there was no airplanes, and it was so quiet, and it was scary. It was like, wow, how clutching we became. But what did we also know is we had to not be so afraid that we pulled inside, that we still lived our lives. And that's what was kind of encouraged to us. And it really did make a difference. We began to live not out of fear, but out of love. And to me, that's what this is saying. Fear pulls us in, but forgiveness sets us free. And forgiveness is not finding somebody to forgive, finding somebody to say you're okay. Forgiveness is a correction of perception to focus on what is true, not what is the fantasy. So what is true? We hear it in the very beginning of the text where it says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. So nothing real can be threatened, which is love. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That is the truth. That's where we find our release. So we do have to bring our attention to a focus on the truth. And that's why you've got those 365 lessons. Sure hope you're doing them. Because this is the reason why we need them. Because the world is going to show us great tragedy, great suffering, great limitation. That's what it was meant to do. Why should it disappoint you? It was meant to do that. But you are able to, because of who you are and who your Father is, to shift your perception from the illusion to the truth. And we do that from the Course's perspective through the power of forgiveness. And what is forgiveness then? It is a correction of our perception. It is a looking with love instead of fear. How does the Course say to do it? It says every expression is an extension of love or a call for love. We saw a lot of calls for love on Saturday, didn't we? And so our response is not to answer hate with hate, but to answer as Jesus showed us the last useless journey, as he said, the sonship will ever have to take to the cross. He said, don't do what I do. You do not have to crucify yourself any longer. You can answer love in the simplest slights in your life and exercise that spiritual muscle. So when these things begin to happen in the world, you are able to be carried. We need to do this. This is imperative for our survival. This, my brother used to always say, oh, A Course in Miracles is our survival manual for the 21st century. And he's right. If we want to survive, it's not in drone strikes. It's not in Syrian refugees. It's not in everything else. It's in us healing our minds now. So if you're not doing your workbook lessons, then it's just as imperative as you stocking up water or getting food or buying a generator. You know, at the beginning of the year, you always look at Costco.com, generators are on sale. Food, what do you call it? Frozen food, not frozen. Freeze-dried food, containers for water, you know, the generators, all these things for survival. Our son was telling me that this little girl that is in his guitar class, she always says to him, I want to build a bunker underneath my house. So I want to go to the desert and build a bunker because she's hearing all this stuff and she's afraid. You know, if we're going to survive, and we will survive, I mean, there's no doubt about it, because you cannot end life. The point of it is, how are you going to live? How are you going to live right now? In a state of fear or in a state of forgiveness? In a state of anger and hate or in a state of love? It's going to become your choice. You say, but it's really hard to come from love. Yes, for you it is. For me it is. But it is not for God, because that's all he knows. That's all that is true. So if we need help, then we need to learn how to turn to him. He's our survival manual. He's our survival packet. Are we doing the things that we need to do so that we can hear his voice?